Was OJ Simpson's confession actually hypothetical, or was it his real-life account of what happened to Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman that night? We're going to break down OJ's body language to finally reveal the truth. That's next. Welcome back to the channel, Shakers. Derek Van Shake here. I was pretty young when this case took over television, and I don't remember it that much. So I was watching some of it on Netflix and went down the Netflix rabbit hole. OJ Simpson,
I was way off,
was a Hall of Fame football player. He was a quarterback, running back, linebacker. Well, he's one of those. And in his retirement, he did NFL commentary, commercials.
The superstar in rent-a-car.
you know it.
And also this curious workout video.
Gotta get your space in if you're working out with the wife, if you know what I mean. You can always blame it on working out. Jesus, choose.
On the evening of June 12, 1994, his ex-wife Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman were sadly murdered. OJ was the top suspect, but was acquitted by a jury on October 3rd, 1995.
Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder.
However, in 2006, OJ did this Fox interview after publishing his book titled, If I Did It. So we're going to break down OJ's body language and behavior to finally reveal if he was talking in what he calls hypotheticals, or was OJ recalling it from real-life events, which would finally prove that he did it. Now, let's get started.
OJ puts himself, hypothetically, at the scene of the crime.
What might have happened on the night of June 12th, 1994?
The first thing that we notice is even before that nervous laughter you just saw there, did you catch what he did? Watch again.
What might have happened on the night of June 12th?
Yes, he leans all the way back in his chair, looks away, and takes a deep breath, which indicates massive nervousness and apprehension to talk about this. Keep in mind, this appears to be the first time he's ever talking about any of this on national television and speaking it in his own words. And combined with that cluster when he stretched and looked away, taking that deep breath, indicating all that nervousness and apprehension, he gives off a nervous, apprehensive smile.
1994.
Right now, we don't know much. We just know that OJ is extremely apprehensive and nervous to talk about this topic. But keep in mind, it's not like he's nervous and apprehensive to be on camera because he's never been on camera before. He was an NFL commentator for years. He was on talk shows, on commercials.
I wouldn't risk my vacation with an unreliable rent-a-car company
because it's always naturally sweet.
Backhand going. I was deadly with my backhand.
Clearly, this is not just, oh, well, he was just scared to be on camera for the first time in his entire life. That's not like that at all with OJ Simpson. Let's keep watching.
In the book, the hypothetical is...
OJ first starts talking about this topic in the third person, very far removed.
In the book, the hypothetical.
And notice as the interview continues, he talks about it less in the third person and more in the first person. This is actually an interrogation trick of getting a suspect to start talking about the crime. It is actually saying, hey, hypothetically, if you did do it, how did you do it? So someone talking about a crime as hypothetical is not at all new to, this situation with OJ Simpson. This has been done many, many times before, whether it's an interrogator to get the suspect to begin talking, whether it's a news reporter trying to get the story out of the suspect without the suspect feeling like he's incriminating himself, or whether it's the truly guilty but now exonerated suspect trying to take credit for the crime. Now watch OJ's reaction when the interviewer mentions Charlie, which is OJ's, what he claims, his accomplice in all this. Watch his reaction.
Charlie pulls that up.
Charlie.
Yes, immediately we seem to get this playful, duping cluster from him.
Charlie pulls that up.
Charlie.
Yes, he's laughing, head shaking, head down, looking down. OJ doesn't seem to be serious at all about this Charlie accomplice character that he's going to be making up here. And as we progress through, I think this Charlie character is sort of OJ's alter ego.
This guy Charlie shows up, the guy who I had recently become friends with.
The whole recently became friends with, the way that I'm taking this, based on the duping cluster we saw before.
Charlie.
This person is not really a person, but more like Simpson's alter ego that he recently embraced. Could it actually be a real person? It could be, but there's just a lot of things that we're seeing, and throughout this interview, we'll be pointing it out. It just doesn't seem logical the way he's describing everything that it could actually be a real person.
I don't know why you had been by Nicole's house, but it told me you wouldn't believe what's going on over there.
Did you notice how OJ said it told him and not he told him?
I don't know why you had been by Nicole's house, but it told me you wouldn't believe what's going on over there.
Yes, even further making us believe that OJ and Charlie are kind of like alter egos here. And it's possibly OJ's way of trying to make the story not sound too similar to what everyone believes may have happened.
And I remember thinking, well, whatever's going over there's got to stop.
And if you notice now, OJ is completely talking about this in first person.
And I remember thinking, well, whatever's going over there's got to stop.
He's not talking about it in third person, like, oh, well, if I would have done it, or this is kind of like what I thought happened, or may have happened, or if I was stupid enough to do it, or anything like that. He's saying this first person. And yeah, it did come out in trial that OJ does have a pretty bad temper.
Well, whatever's going over there's got to stop.
And if you got a lot of stress and some anger, try to visualize. With me, I always visualize Mount St. Helens.
Yeah, OJ's calm, happy place is Mount St. Helens erupting.
Well, whatever's going over there's got to stop.
Is it possible that maybe he's just acting here and he's trying to make it entertaining for the camera and trying to make it all seem like, he was actually doing it and trying to get some publicity? Maybe so far, but let's keep watching.
Get in the Bronco and go over it.
You put on a wool cap and gloves.
In the hypothetical, I put on a cap and gloves.
Here's the thing. OJ is talking about hypothetically murdering the mother of his children. This was not some person that he never knew, never met, and it's just like, hey, people think I did it. I'm going to make a book and I'm going to make some money off it. This was the mother of his children. His children have to hear daddy talk about how he hypothetically murdered mommy. There seems to be a lot bigger motive than money that's motivating him to write this book and have this interview here. Criminals who get away with crimes often want to talk about how they committed the crime and how they got away with it. Because what? They're proud of it, feeling like they outsmarted people and wanting actual credit. So naturally, that's going to be on our mind when we're watching OJ Simpson here. Let's keep watching.
You reached under the seat for
a knife.
Looking away and gives a congruent head nod, indicating that this is something that he's recalling.
You reached under the seat for
a knife.
Here's the problem. We don't know yet whether he's recalling it from his memory or recalling it from the book that he wrote. So what we're going to be doing is looking for little slip-ups that you won't be able to really notice until you break it down. Let's keep watching.
I always kept a knife in the car for the crazies and stuff because you can't travel with a gun.
He's not talking about this as third person. Well, an NFL superstar would naturally want to carry a weapon in his car and he can't carry a gun, so he would carry a knife. That would be third person, far removed. This is not that. He's talking about this very personally here.
I always kept a knife in the car for the crazies and stuff because you can't travel with a gun.
He's talking about this in his own experience that, hey, I had a knife underneath the seat of my truck. Let's keep watching.
And I remember Charlie saying, you ain't bringing that. And I didn't, right? But I believe he took it.
Charlie took the knife?
Yeah.
What we're going to be noticing is that he looks to the right a lot when he's thinking. And probably the reason why is that his chair is slanted to the right during this interview, where he feels comfortable looking away to think in that void, as opposed to looking to the left, which is actually looking into the interviewer's lap.
And I remember Charlie saying, you ain't bringing that. And I didn't, right? But I believe he took it.
Charlie took the knife?
Yeah.
Now, when you watch this part here, see what you think of the details that he gives you.
I go to the front and I'm looking to see what's going on. I can see that it appears like Nicole had candles all the time. And music was on. And while I was there, a guy shows up.
Yeah, he seems to be giving a lot of curious detail that seems to be very consistent with what happened that night. When I first heard that OJ did a hypothetical book, I thought it was like the way that this killer did it was not the way that OJ would have done it. Here's how OJ would have done it. He would have went into the house and then did it like this and then waited for Ron, behind the door or something like that. That's what I thought this would be. Okay? He's not talking about that. This interview and apparently that book is not this far-removed hypothetical situation. This is the situation that we all know of with all the evidence basically tying him to the crime. Now, did you catch OJ's body language when he said, the guy shows up? Watch that part again.
And music was on, and while I was there, a guy shows up.
This doesn't seem to be some story he wrote about and he made up and he's now going to tell you about it. This seems to be very authentic, very much reliving the surprise. Did you notice OJ's raised eyebrows and lips sucked in and then also popping them forward at the same time?
While I was there, a guy shows up.
In body language, I and anyone who's good relies on clusters. They don't rely on any random looks away, nose touches, or hair tosses. If you assume something of somebody with some random gesture, you're not reading body language, you're just being an idiot. Now watch OJ's body language and see if you think he's remembering this from a book that he wrote or remembering back from a personal event. Watch and see what you think.
So Ron Goldman comes in the back gate.
Yeah, a guy that I really didn't recognize.
Hey, someone came in. I didn't really recognize that massive cluster, right? Eyes squinting, looking away, trying to visualize that situation again. His head shaking that he doesn't recognize that person. Everything is massively congruent in what we would think of someone remembering back to what happened that night.
I think Charlie had followed this guy in, wanted to make sure it was no problem. And he brought the knife.
OJ says that Charlie followed this guy, Ron Goldman, in through the gate, but doesn't mention anything about OJ being in there or how he got in there. You see, so it just doesn't seem that this was an actual other person. It just seems that OJ is viewing Charlie as kind of his alter ego.
In the mood I was in, I started having words with him.
So again, very congruent body language and verbals indicating that he's remembering back to an instance, and this is not some story he's making up or story he just told in a book. Now watch and listen closely to this part. See what you think.
He says to you, I just came by to return a pair of glasses. Judy left them at the restaurant.
Yeah, words to that effect, yes.
Yeah, words to that effect, yes.
Oh my goodness. That's a dead giveaway right there. Did you catch it?
He says to you, I just came by to return a pair of glasses. Judy left them at the restaurant.
Yeah, words to that effect, yes.
The interviewer was clearly reading the exact words he wrote in the book. And what does he respond with?
Yeah, words to that effect, yes.
What he seems to be actually saying is something to that effect is what I remember him saying. And I put that in the book.
I don't know if I believed it or didn't believe it. It was pretty much immaterial because, I was more concerned about everything that was going on.
Again, very congruent body language of someone remembering back to an event and how they felt and not just telling a story far removed and not very personal at all.
I don't know if I believed it or didn't believe it. It was pretty much immaterial because, I was more concerned about everything that was going on.
Everything that was going on, which is very congruent and in line with all the evidence and the motive why people believe he did it.
Fed up with it, I guess. And
you get into a fight. Nicole comes out. And
a verbal fight. Got a little loud, and by that time, Nicole had come out. As things got heated, I just remember Nicole fell.
Yeah, I'm sure Nicole tripped over her own 2 feet and hurt herself. And OJ had absolutely nothing to do with that.
And hurt herself.
And if you notice, he's not giving details on why she fell or what could have happened or anything like that, because that kind of detail is not something he wants to be tying himself to and talking about, being like, oh, well, here's how I hypothetically did that to Nicole. So that's why he's omitting that detail, even though he surely knows exactly what happened.
And this guy kind of got into a karate thing.
Again, squinting his eyes, slowing his speech, trying to remember back to what happened, all the while mimicking Ron Goldman was doing that night. It's these very small gestures, the squinting of the eyes, the slow speech, and trying to remember back. All of that indicates that he's remembering back to an experience and not something he wrote in a book.
And I said, well, you think you can kick my ass? And I remember I grabbed a knife. I do remember that portion, taking a knife from Charlie. And to be honest, after that, I don't remember.
OJ's saying that in first person.
And I remember I grabbed a knife.
This is not like, well, the guy would be grabbing the knife and then would do it like that. Like, no, he's saying, then I remember I grabbed the knife and actually gesturing, grabbing the knife.
And I remember I grabbed the knife.
He's motioning, grabbing the knife and saying to you, I remember grabbing the knife.
And I remember I grabbed the knife. I do remember that portion.
And also saying, I do remember that portion. Now watch this part here and see what you think of his body language.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical.
Calling that massive duping delight is an understatement.
I hate to say this, but this is hypothetical.
He's laughing hysterically, shaking his head incongruently. No, he's obviously lying that he's calling this hypothetical. And again, this is not some stranger he never met or, some far removed person. This is the mother of his 2 children.
You wrote in the book, I had never seen so much blood in my life.
Yes.
Again, even more congruent body language of what we would expect of someone remembering back to what happened that night and not just remembering back to what they typed in a book. Now watch this part here and see if you can pick up on this slip up.
Yeah, I think everything was covered, would have been covered in blood.
Did you catch it?
Yeah, I think everything was covered.
He slips and says everything was, and then quickly corrects himself and says
Would have been covered in blood.
everything would have been. As if, well, I wasn't there, but it would have been if I was there.
You write about removing a glove before taking the knife from Charlie.
I had no conscious memory of doing that, but obviously I must have because they found the glove there.
I had no conscious memory of doing that? You don't say that if you just wrote a book about it. He clearly is remembering back to this event. OJ Simpson's apparently so sick that he wants to take credit for what he did. He was probably getting upset when people were coming to his defense and saying, hey, no, OJ wouldn't have done that. He was like, wait a second, don't go that far. Give me some credit here, I got away with it, so give me some credit. He was probably feeling a little bit like that.
I believe Charlie kept saying, we got to get out of here.
Now watch this part here and see if you notice any slip up. I'm not actually certain that these are actual slip ups. I think he's actually trying to tell the world I did it. So I'm not totally convinced that these are slip ups. Anyway, see what you think of this slip up.
In the book, you describe taking off your shoes, your pants, and your shirt and dropping it in a bundle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
She tells him what's in the book and says, do you remember that? And it should have been a quick, yeah, of course I remember that. That's what I wrote. It's in the book. Yes, that's what I said in the book. No, he clearly thinks back to his own personal memory and then says, yeah, I remember that.
In the book, you describe taking off your shoes, your pants, and your shirt and dropping it in a bundle. Do you remember that?
Yes.
This whole thing of, did OJ do it or didn't he do it?
Do you remember what happened?
Because what are you going to do with it?
Did you see that very congruent expression on his face when he was remembering back to the bloody clothes? Watch that part again. He looks away, remembering back, eyebrows raised, indicating concern of remembering back to that time, and also gives a little bit of an eek expression, pulling his lips back as he's remembering back to that gruesome situation. OJ's body language is shockingly congruent. He's not remembering back to a situation that he made up or a book that he wrote. He's reliving an event.
Somebody's got to get rid of, as you may have called during the trial, is wear the bloody clothes. So somebody had to get rid of the bloody clothes.
Someone had to get rid of the bloody clothes, and he's telling you how he got rid of them. There you go.
And you had left your keys and wallet in your pants pocket, and you had to go back and get it?
To be honest, I think I know that to be true, yes.
Hypothetically, I would have made this mistake too. When you're hypothetically talking about it, you're not going to be thinking about all these very detailed, very specific mistakes like he's mentioning here.
Charlie is hysterical, screaming, Jesus Christ, OJ, Jesus Christ. And you tell him to shut up.
Yeah, he's in a panic. He was in a panic, and I'm telling him to shut up. Let's get out of here.
Again, I'm leaning towards Charlie being OJ's alter ego. So OJ may have been thinking, oh my gosh, whoa, I got to get out of here. I'm going to be in trouble. And then runs.
Drove back and it parked a block away because I knew the limo would be there, and came across the backyard through the 2 tennis courts and, came through the house.
So you went through the neighbors?
Neighbors, yeah. He had a tennis court, then I had a tennis court.
Based on this interview, based on his body language, he's clearly remembering back to that night. If you know anyone who's on the fence, send them this video. I think it's pretty darn clear that OJ Simpson did it. This was quite surprising to me because I didn't expect this when I turned this on. That, what I was going to witness is, OJ actually really confessing. And the thing is, too, OJ can't be tried again because of what's called double jeopardy. You can't be tried for the same crime twice, even if you are found innocent and then new evidence comes out that would show that you're guilty. You can't be tried again. So he's free to say it. I remember as a kid, I asked my mom, I was like, well, OJ went free, and if he's guilty, would he be able to say he's guilty now because he's free now? And she was like, yeah, she can go and say, no, I'm free, and I did it. And you know what? There it is. There's his version of I did it. Ridiculous. He wants to take credit for it, apparently. This is not very uncommon with criminals. Criminals usually are proud of what they did, especially if they're able to get away with it.
It was never a case of where I really thought he was just an innocent person. I just felt that as presented to me at trial, I couldn't convict him.
The fact that I might release a person that was guilty, it bothered me.
There's moral justice and there's legal justice. I felt legal justice was done. As far as moral justice, I haven't discussed it with anyone, including my wife.
When this video gets over 10,000 likes, I'll make a More on video on my More channel. So if you're not already subscribed to my More channel, you may want to do that so you don't miss out on that likely future video. Now in the comments, what makes you think OJ Simpson did it? Was it his body language in this video? Was it DNA evidence? Was it his footprints? Was it his lack of alibi? Let everyone know in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button now because we don't want to miss out on new body language and investigative videos. Always come shake up YouTube. I'll see you at the top.